How's it going, YouTube? I trust you are all well. Tony Brown here again with another Akai MPC sampling video. And in this video, I am going to take you through a process of finding a sample, chopping it up, and making a beat. And this is another installment for the Pad Bank Flip It Challenge. And if you're not aware of what the Pad Bank is, it's an online community that I run for sample-based beat makers and producers. And each week we post a sample and we flip it and submit a beat, and then we all vote to see which one's the best. So let's check out this week's sample. And also in this video, I am going to take you through my entire sampling process, as a few of you have asked for a bit more of an in-depth insight into chopping up the samples. So let's get into it. So with the Flip It Challenge, you'll see here in the group, the sample is posted as a YouTube link and also as an MP3 file in Dropbox. So the options are, we can either go to YouTube and sample the video from YouTube, or if you'd rather have it straight as a MP3 file, we can click on this link here and it will open up in Dropbox and we can download that file and drag it straight into the MPC. In terms of sampling from YouTube, if you don't know how to do that on the MPC software, I've got another video which I'll link to above, which will talk you through the entire process of how you can do that. But in this case, I've already downloaded the track as an MP3 file. I've got it here, and I'm literally going to drag this straight into the MPC software. So this is the entire track. I'm just going to grab it and drag it in here and drop it. And then you'll see, if I go to all samples, there it is. If I go to sample edit, there's the track. That's the entire track there. Now, before I start, my normal process is I will bounce this stereo track down to a mono track. And that's simply just to save space when sampling. So what I'll do, I'll go down here to mono, stereo to mono. I'll click that. And the function is you want to go from stereo to mono. And it says here source. Now that's asking, where do you want the source to come from? Do you want to take the left channel and make it a mono sample? Do you want to take the right channel and make that a mono sample? Or do you want to take both, which is sum, and make everything? So basically bounce it down or mix it down to one mono sample. And there's a few reasons why you might want to do left or right. On some recordings, the left channel may contain part of the recording that is not found on the right channel. So it's a good way to separate sounds within the sample. So for example, you might find on certain tracks, it's been recorded in a way where the left side of the channel only has the drums and the bass line, and you might find the right side has a lead guitar and some keys. That'll be great because it helps you to separate those sounds and use them as individual samples. But in this case, I'm going to go to sum and I'm going to bounce the whole thing down to a mono sample. So I'll click do it, and you'll see it hasn't done anything here. But if you go to all samples and look over here, you'll see it's got a second version. So it doesn't destroy the first original sample, it will keep that, but it will give you a mono sample. Now, I haven't actually listened to this sample yet, so I don't know where this beat's going to go. I don't know how we're going to work with this. I'm going to go through the sample and I'm going to cut out the segments that I don't intend to use. Now, what I usually call this is a sample montage. I'm going to create a sample montage. So I'm basically going to go through the whole thing and just chop out the pieces or discard or delete the pieces that I don't intend on using. So the way I do that is I'll use my start and end points and just basically drag them to the areas that I'm thinking I'm not necessarily going to use that.
We got to have a holiday. He talked about love, holiday, about unification.
If you look on the screen here, you'll see each pad now represents a different play function for the sample. So I'm in trim mode and I'm actually using play from end. So this pad I'm hitting now is causing a sample to play from the end point after the end point. So I'm doing that so I can line up where I want my chop to end. So we've got the start point, which is that. I'm going to tighten that up a little bit. So you can see I've zoomed in there. I'm going to tighten up so that chop starts right on the kick. I like to give myself a bit of breathing space either side because I'm going to chop it up again later. And then I'm going to go to the end point. Zoom in again, and you'll see my end point there. Let's zoom in. So that's now playing from the end point, so I know that is right on the kick. So I'm going to cut that. I'm actually going to go to delete. Don't use discard. Discard will cut the pieces either side and keep this highlighted space. What you want to do is delete. You want to delete the highlighted space. So I've got to delete, and it says, are you sure? Yes, we are sure, and it's gone. So we've cut that piece out. So I'm just going to discard this end piece here as well. Just discard that. Okay, just so I've got a nice tidy beginning. So we've lost quite a bit of that sample now. Let's move into it again. Take it from this kick now. Get rid of this. So it's from there. See, basically what I'm looking to do is to get rid of the core vocals, the main vocals. If I want to sample those, I'm going to go back and sample them again. So let's say I wanted to use those core vocals in the beat I make down the line. I'll go back and reuse those. But for this sample montage, I'm going to cut out the core vocals. I'll keep some of the ad-libs, I'll keep some of the backing vocals and whatever, the oohs and ahs, but I want to get rid of the main vocals. Okay, there's a nice little break there. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to go from this snare here. It's nice and clean. So I'm going to zoom right in and make my end point be at that snare there. Nice little clean break there. Okay, so again, I'm going to discard all this here. Sorry, I'm going to delete all this here. So again, delete. So once I've found my start point, I know that I'm going to cut. I've got my start point. So now I'm going to cut from there. I then switch to using the end point to find my next point. So I'm going to keep dragging this across. So again, there's a little clean break there. Start it from the kick or the snare. Again, just use my zoom there. Zoom into the kick. Nice little clean break there again. And now I'm going to end that at that snare. So again, delete that. That's gone. So now I know I can zoom, or I can scrub straight in. So I'm going to take it from that snare. After that snare, so I don't mind keeping that bit of vocal there. I don't mind keeping those little bits. I'll probably use that somewhere. Little bass riff there I want to keep, I think. Yeah, we'll keep that. Okay, so let's lose all that. And then the rest of it is kind of a instrumental breakdown with some xylophones or glockenspiels. And I'm just going to keep all this. Lose that part there after that snare. Let's get rid of this. After this snare, we're going to get rid of this. can see that's going to run straight to the fade out, so I'm going to delete all of that. And then there we have it. There's our sample montage. So let's see what we got. So we've got most of the intro, we know that. The next step really is there's a few little processing things. So I'm going to normalize it. So I've selected all of it and I'm going to click normalize, which it was already a pretty good level anyway. That didn't make much of a difference. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider time stretching it. But before I do that, what I do is make a copy of the sample. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to select my sample, which is this. I'm actually going to rename it first. I'm going to rename this to Mont 1, just so I know it's montage 1, and then I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to go down here to copy, do that, and you'll see we've now got montage 1 and montage 2. Now I'm just going to play about with it. So first things first, I'm going to go to time stretch and I'm going to speed it up. So let's go to 130. So you'll see I've done that on the hardware. Okay, so it's been processed. Let's have a listen. Now one thing you will notice is when I time stretched it, it's changed the quality of the sample quite significantly as well. You can see the levels have gone down. It wasn't as high. If I go back to montage 1, look at the difference there. Look how big the wave files are compared to montage 2, which has just been time stretched. So be aware of that. When you're time stretching samples, it does change the quality of the samples. When you speed it up, time stretch it down, or pitch it, it does change the quality of the sample. So I'm going to undo that and I'm going to try it again, but I'm going to go down this time. I'm going to go down to 70. So I'm changing the ratio down to 70, from 100 to 70, so we're going down 30%. Again, you can see it's changed the quality of the sample. It's reduced the volume significantly. And you can probably hear there's kind of a gritty sound behind it. There's a few reasons for that. One of the main reasons is because it's taken from an MP3. So obviously an MP3 has already been compressed. If it was a WAV file, it would be a much higher quality file. You probably wouldn't get that gritty, grainy sound. Okay, I'm going to undo that again. So I'm going to change it again from 100% down to 80. So let's do that. Alright, so I kind of like the tempo of that. I'd prefer to have it slower than faster, because when I chop it up, it'll give me a bit more space in between the chops. Now what I'm going to consider is pitch shifting it. So I'm just going to hit pitch shift, and I'm going to use the hardware just to scroll up to about 3. Now the pitch shift is quite sensitive, so the starting point by default will be 0. I'm going to pitch it up 3 points. Now listen to the difference this makes. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to normalize it. Okay, so I've kind of got this to the point where I want it and I'm ready to chop it up. So I'm going to go to chop, and what I'm going to do is use manual. I'm going to leave it on manual, and I'm basically going to chop it up on every hi-hat. So let's do it. Okay, that's done. I actually didn't think I would have enough pads to catch all that, but I've got 2 pads left. So all the banks are full from A right the way to H. They're all full, and we've got 2 pads left. So let's go back now and have a look what we've got. So you would have seen as I was hitting the pads, it was placing the chop on the sample and also assigning it to that pad at the same time, which is one thing I love about the MPC. It just makes it real quick. So now all I need to do is just go through and tighten up these chops. So you'll see I've zoomed in, I'm hitting the pad, and I'm just tightening up the start point. As it stands at the moment, I'm using the mouse to do this, but you can also use the Q-link buttons here. Just whatever you prefer, whatever you think works quickest. Now, what I will say is there's no right or wrong place to start these samples. It all comes down to how you're thinking of using a sample, what your ears are telling you, and where you believe it's best placed to be chopped. As a starting point, what I usually do is, like in the case of this sample, I'll usually go to the start of each kick, snare or hi-hat, and I use that as my starting point. As I begin to go through the sample and go through the chops and actually put the beat together, I might start moving things, but at this stage you can see I'm going at the beginning of each, like there, each kick. Hi-hat. Or snare. Okay, so that's all the chops neatened up. The next stage now is to basically bounce this down to a program. And I've explained it before in another video, but I'll explain it again here. You've got a few options. The option I always go for is this option here, non-destructive convert. So I'm going to convert all these chops into a new program. So I'm going to click this, do it, and you'll see it's created a new program here, which is named the same name as the sample we've just chopped up. So now if we go to our main screen, just drag this into here, and it'll basically place all those chops on your pads for you to use. Okay, so let's just go through a few program tips now. So what I usually do with my programs is once I've got all my samples laid out on my pads, I'll go to my program edit window, which is this option up here, the P with the pencil, or you can just literally hit program edit on the hardware, and then I'll come down here to this decay option. And what this does is it basically fades out the end of that chop. So if you listen, at the end of some of those chops, there's a little spill or a little bit of spittage at the end. So by putting some decay on there, it basically kills, it just fades it out, gives it a nice clean end. So what I do, by default I usually go between 40 and 50. So I basically just hit the pad and use the mouse to scroll up on that knob there. If there was one addition I'd love to add to the MPC software, it would be to be able to set this decay to 50 and copy it to all the pads. I would love to be able to do that. If anyone knows if you can do it, please comment, message me and let me know. Yes, Tony, you can do it. But right now I've searched and I can't seem to find a way to do it. So it's literally a case of just going to each pad, hitting the pad and setting the parameters manually. I've done it that many times, I know that I can scroll up on the mouse 4 times and it will take me to around the region that I want it to be at. Okay, so that's that done. Okay, so the next thing I like to do is to put a bit of compression on the entire program. Let's stick a bit of compression on here. So this is on the entire program, this is. And then I also add some chorus. And then I also add a little bit of delay. So there you go, that's more of a in-depth look in how I sample, chop up and create my programs. So I'm going to leave this tutorial here and get on and make this beat. I trust you found this video useful. If you did, then give me a thumbs up, make sure you like and subscribe for many more beat making and sampling videos. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you check out thepadbank.com and apply to join the Pad Bank, which is my online community for beatmakers, samplers and producers. In the meantime, I will see you again in another video. All the best, God bless and take care.